part of it, so we all thank you. My name is Dennis Fincher. I'm a forestry technician at Kretz Lumber Company. I've been working in the woods around here for about 30 years, and we've seen a lot of change just as of late. There's been a number of local foresters and wildlife professionals that, we've seen the dramatic increase of invasives in our woods, and we thought that we have to get the word out. I mean, if I work with this guy and the guy over here, we're not getting out the word enough. So we're hosting this tonight. We hope to do this annually. It's not a fight we're going to win in 1 year. It's going to go on year after year. So thank you very much for coming. Hopefully we give you some information tonight that will help you. And one thing I'm going to say a number of times tonight, please spread the word. Because if those of us up here turn into all of us, we're gonna fight this battle. Because I can tell you in southern Wisconsin, they've lost this battle in a lot of places. And I've seen places up here where we've lost the battle. And if we don't attack it now, it's gonna get really bad. So right now, just real quickly, I'm going to introduce everybody. If you just stand up and introduce yourself, let everybody know what you do.
Cody Browner, I'm a forester with Langley County Forestry Department.
And he's treated a lot of invasive species.
I'm Ryan Meadow, a forester with Versal Corporation, a paper company.
I'm Travis Larson, I'm a forester with Wisconsin UNR.
Eric Ranslow, Langley County Forest Administrator.
Phil Place right over here.
I'm with UW-Stanton, I'm a natural resources educator.
Andrew Devlin, work with MFL in Langley County.
Wes Phillips, I'm a DNR forester in Antioch. Sam Blake, non-tax law private lands forestry here in Antioch.
Janet Ream, wildlife biologist for Lincoln and Langley County.
I'm Mitch Ives. I'm the coordinator for the Timberland Invasive Partnership. We do nonprofit invasive species work across Langley, O'Connell, Menominee, and Shawnee.
He's been around. He's a good resource.
Yeah. Oh yeah, if you want to contact us, you can either go through, say, the county foresters or the Land and Water Conservation Office, or our website is Timberland Invasive.
One thing I can tell you, if you're from Langley County here, if you don't think you have garlic mustard or buckthorn on your property, you probably do. And if you don't have it yet, you probably will. It's that bad. Okay? When you drive around the country now, after you see what it looks like tonight, you're going to see it spread all through the county, starting tomorrow. I just wanted to read a quote real quick. Those of us who went to school, we had to read the San County Almanac. Maybe some of you have read it. If you haven't read it, it's a good read. This is a quote from Aldo Leopold. He was born here in Wisconsin. He died here in Wisconsin. He spent his professional life in Wisconsin. He was a professor down at UW Wisconsin. He was a forester. He was a naturalist, and he was a writer. He always spoke about the land ethic. Okay, as foresters, wildlife people, landowners like yourself, we all should have that wildlife land ethic. He was all about preserving natural ecosystems, and he was well known for that book. But he was a true steward of the land, which I'm sure many of us here tonight are the same. This quote here, and this will be a door prize tonight. It says here, I've read many definitions of what is a conservationist and written on a few myself, but I suspect that the best one is written not with a pen, but with an axe. It is a matter of what a man thinks about while chopping or while deciding on what to chop. A conservation is one who is humbly aware that with each stroke he is writing his signature on the face of his land. And that's what we're either going to do by fighting this or we're not going to do. And I'm hopeful we're going to do it. I think we're taking steps right now in Langley County that they didn't take down in the southern part of the state in time. Right now, if you get at that young buckthorn, you stand a chance. Once it goes to seed like that back there, that seed's going to spread really fast. Okay? Tonight, so our hopes tonight is to keep everything positive. There's lots of issues. There's lots of different things that go along with public lands and access and that sort of thing. But tonight what we want to do is get you guys to be able to identify the two main culprits being buckthorn and garlic mustard. We have other invasive species here, but those are the two biggest culprits that we're going to be fighting. We want to We want to show you their effects and what they're doing. We have examples of around the state, and we have a lot of examples right here in Langley County. We want to try to stop the spread, and we want to get the word out. So again, I'm asking you please to let your neighbors know what you learned tonight. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Bill. Bill's going to talk to you about what we've got in the presentation. Thanks, Bill. He's got a slide presentation on the slide.
So I'm going to talk a bit about a number of invasive species here that we're really concerned about here in Langley County and throughout the state. But I'm going to start off with talking about why they're a big problem. I'm going to stand over here, hopefully everybody can hear me. And I'll try not to talk too fast, but I have a tendency to do. But they're not a problem. They're a problem here because they don't have the natural predators and natural pathogens that they would in their native country. I remember I was at a conference on invasive species, and there was a guy from Britain there, and he gave a talk about garlic mustard. And he said, I don't know why this is such a big deal here in the U.S. In Britain, it's just a little plant that doesn't go anywhere. That was because the animals that eat it and the microbes and the fungi in the soil that kill it are plentiful in Britain. Here in Wisconsin, we don't have any of those. And that's kind of the same as the emerald ash borer that you can see in those two pictures. The top one is the adult, and the bottom one is the larvae that you might see underneath the bark of ash trees where it's infested. No natural resistance many times is the case. No natural predators. No natural pathogens that kill these things. And so they can spread very quickly, and that's why they're a big problem, especially for some of the plant species that we have. Dennis mentioned garlic mustard and buckthorn. They can crowd out all our native species that our wildlife like to eat. And so that can be a problem because they might not like to eat the buckthorn or the garlic mustards in the world. And so we have to be diligent about finding these things, keeping them out of our forests, and getting rid of them as soon as we can. And that's why I think we're here today, is to make sure everybody knows what those are and what they can do about it. And so I'm going to talk briefly about some of the most common ones that are out there, the ones we worry about the most. Starting with buckthorn. There's two kinds of buckthorn out there that we worry about, the common and the glossy buckthorn. In the picture on the left, you can see that all buckthorn shrubs grow inside that trail. They can take over an understory. I've seen forests where it's nothing but buckthorn. You can barely walk around and see anything else growing. It can be a big problem, and it can spread very quickly. If you look at it, it can be a very tall shrub, or a short tree, or a tall shrub, up to 20 feet tall. And if you cut off the bark and look at the center of it, or cut off the top, it has a very orange kind of center. The heartwood is very orange. It's very distinct from many other species we have. Okay. It produces these really dark colored fruit that animals love to eat, birds love to eat them, but it doesn't give them much nutritional value. In fact, it's just the opposite. It gives them diarrhea, and so they poop it out right away. So they eat more and poop it out, and they spread the seeds like crazy. That's why it spreads so quickly throughout our area. They've got thorns at the end of the branches, and it makes it very different from any of the shrubs that we have. There's also the glossy buckthorn. It's more often found in wet areas, but can spread to upland areas as well. It can become an upright shrub and can become a dense thicket at times. It has a bit different leaves than the common buckthorn, and flowers are a little different as well. And the seeds tend to ripen haphazardly. Some of them ripen quickly, the fruit ripens quickly, and some of them aren't as quickly. So you have a mixture of very bright fruit and kind of dull colored fruit all at the same time. So what do you do about it? Well, there are things you can do about it, especially if you find it early before it becomes a big infestation. If you don't like to use herbicides, you can pull it right out of the ground, and that can work pretty well if you have the right tools and the right people. You can also you can use prescribed fire to burn your property, and that'll kill off the young seedlings if you do it in the spring, before they get too big. But herbicides tend to be the best way to go about getting rid of this plant. You can spray it on the foliage if it's a small shrub. If it gets to be a big shrub, and they can get to be big shrubs. They can be this big around, almost like small trees. So you can cut them off with a chainsaw, and you can spread some herbicide around the base of the stump, and that'll kill it off. And these guys are going to talk a bit more about some success stories like that. So there's things you can do. It's important to find it before it become too many on your property. Because once it becomes too many, they can be hard to deal with. But when you can get it before it becomes a big infestation, you have a good chance of eradicating it. Another one we worry about is the Japanese barberry. It's often bought as a landscaping shrub because it has a really neat color. The leaves are red in color, and they have thorns on them, so they're advertised as being deer resistant. Unfortunately, they tend to spread out into the forest, and instead of being red, they'll be green shrubs, kind of a short shrub. And one of the downsides of the barberry in our landscape is that it tends to house a lot of ticks. Ticks really love that structure in the shrub, and so if you got it, it can produce a lot of ticks in it. So another reason to get rid of it. It produces a lot of these red berries that birds love to eat, and they poop out the seeds, and so it spreads pretty quickly. What do you do about it? You can pull it, you can burn it, and you can treat it with an herbicide. But you have to be careful, like this and the buckthorn and the honeysuckle I'm going to talk about, that you can't just cut it down and think it's going to die, because it'll resprout like crazy and come back even stronger. So if you're going to cut it, you need to treat the stumps with an herbicide, or you're going to be coming back and cutting it over and over again every year. Garlic mustard was mentioned. It can be a big problem. You see the entire understory in this picture is all garlic mustard. It can spread that quickly. One small plant can produce thousands of seeds, and then they can spread very quickly. So it's something you want to keep an eye out for before it becomes well established. It grows over 2 years. The first year is a picture on the left. It's kind of heart-shaped little leaves that are close to the ground. You might even think it's Creeping Charlie or Creeping Jenny. The second year, it's an upright stem with triangular-shaped leaves. And if you crush them, they have a garlic scent, hence the name garlic mustard, and produce little white flowers at the top. And as I said, each one of those flowers can produce thousands of seeds. What do? You can pull it. Great. Don't let it go to flower, don't let it go to seed. So you want to do it while the plant is still, before it starts to flower, like in early spring. You can, some people use torches to kill it if they don't want to use herbicide, but herbicide is a good way to go. You want to treat it, you can spray it in the early spring or late fall, before the native plants have come up yet. Like most non-native plants, like the buckthorn, the honeysuckle, and the garlic mussel, they'll flower, put out green leaves before our native plants will, in the early spring and the last will into the fall. So those are good times to attack them with an herbicide. Here's the honeysuckle I mentioned. We do have a native honeysuckle, but it's not a shrub, it's more like a vine. And it tends to grow in the understory of our forest, whereas the non-native honeysuckles tend to grow on the edge. They will grow underneath the shade of trees, and they can take over a stand and become big and strong. They can grow up to 10 feet tall. There's a number of different species of them. They were brought in as ornamentals, and so they produce different kinds of flowers, really beautiful flowers. Some of them are white, some of them are yellow, some of them are pink. Really beautiful berries, too, that the birds love to eat. Poop them out and spread the plant. You have to keep an eye out for them. Am I becoming a broken record? How do you get rid of them? You can pull them if you want. Same thing as buckthorn, same treatment. You can use burning to get rid of the small plants in the spring. You can cut them and then treat the stumps with an herbicide. All very effective techniques, and you can use it to control the population on your property if you get it before it gets well established. Giant hogweed is another one of those non-native plants that is really can spread quickly, but it has another side to it. In fact, that side can be really hurtful to us, and that is that the chemical in the sap, if it gets on your skin and if you get exposed to sunlight, it can cause a very burning sensation, a blistering sensation on your skin that can be really painful and can last for many years. The picture on the left, you can see the burn that person suffered from. I was giving this presentation once to a group of landowners, and a woman came up to me afterwards and said, "Yep, I know about that plant. I was doing some weed whacking, and I hit it in my shorts. And I hit this plant, and the sap got over my legs, and it really burned and it was really painful." So this one and the next one I want you to keep an eye out for, so that you can get rid of it off your property and do it in a way that's safe for yourself. It's actually a very tall plant. It can grow very tall, and it's got a hollow stem that can get to be about 1 inch around. Big flowers. It has like white hairs growing out of the stem. It's really distinct. There's nothing else growing like it out there. It can be, like I said, it can be very tall. As you saw in the last picture, you can see how tall it is in the right picture. Very tall plant. You can dig out the roots. You got to get a little bit below the soil line so you get all of the root. If you're careful, you see many times in the pictures people are handling with gloves. If you're careful and have long sleeves and gloves on, you should be all right. You can burn the plant after you pick it, or you can bag it up and send it to a landfill. You can use an herbicide to kill this plant. Just be careful with it. It can really be a painful situation if you get exposed to the sap, so be careful as you treat these. And then as well, parsnip. It's another one that this one mostly grows in open areas, along roadsides, and along edges. It's another one of those that can cause painful blisters on your skin if you get exposed to the sap and then exposed to sunlight. So be careful with this one. Just protect yourself with long pants, long sleeves, and gloves. It has some big flowers that are kind of yellow on it that become I'm not going to use a technical term, but it's a big flower. The leaves have kind of a funky look to them. It's the same thing as the last one. Dig out the roots, cut the plant off, dig out the roots. You can burn it or bag it. If you want to use a brush cutter to get rid of big infestations like this one, that's okay. Again, cover yourself up, protect yourself from the sap. And use an herbicide on the leaves as well.
Isn't that real common along the roadside?
That's more often than not, that's what's common. In old fields, that's when, but
You
keep
don't
an
want to
eye.
mow it after it's on the seed though.
Right.
Yes, after it's on the seed though.
You don't want to mow it, yes. Sorry, thank you. All right.
Good. We're going to hold questions till the end. We'll try to get through all the speakers, and we'll have a question and answer time. Does that sound good? Okay. Travis is going to come up next. He's going to give us some local examples of what we've got here. And while I think of it, in the back of the room, we do have examples of some of these plants, and we do have some brochures for you to take so you can identify it. Travis?
All right, as you said, I'm Travis Larson. I'm a forester with Wisconsin DNR. I'm relatively new at this. I've only been doing it for about a year, but definitely opened my eyes to everything that I see in the woods day in and day out. And I've been working with Langley County Forestry a lot this year as well, just with the DNR, and kind of the story of what I've been seeing a lot of. So I'm going to jump right into some pictures here. These pictures here, as well as the next slide, were all found right here in Langley County, on Langley County forestry land. As Bill talked about a little earlier, scarlet mustard there, you can see the heart-shaped leaves and how dense it can be. That's another telltale sign of it. It likes to follow drainages, so if you have hills or places where water collects, well, if you have it, that's a good place to find it as well. So, like I said, these are just going to be some pictures of what we see here in the area. There's some more of the secondary smaller stalk-like stems that will hold the seeds, and those are, I would say, a bigger idea to watch out for, but those are the ones that create the seeds. Those are the ones that spread. So compared to the tertiary plant, which isn't going to spread the seeds, it can eventually turn into seeds, but it's not as, like I said, I don't want to say it's not as big a deal, but the secondary plants are really the ones that you know you got a problem, because that's how the seeds are going to spread. In the top left there, that is a trail picture that we have here in Langley County, and that's kind of I'm going to kind of touch on that a little later. That's another spot to find it. As we said, things like to get spread by animals and birds, but they also like to get spread by vehicles, trucks, ATVs, snowmobiles, even. So anything that uses the trail is another good carrier of seeds. I'm going to jump into buckthorn. This one here, I got some pictures from Cody. This is in Swamco. The pine plantation, you can see the nice beautiful upright trees. The top right picture, pretty full of buckthorn. You can see that plant back there. The tall one in the very back there, the little hairy one. Pretty dense. You can't really walk through it. It's hard to work around, it's hard to work with. And they did a treatment of essentially mowing it. You can see that in the left picture there. They mow it down with a skid steer machine and take care of it, and then they sprayed it the following year, correct? So they came back and they let it, and then they used the herbicide to take care of it completely. So that's a success story, I call it. It was fairly successful, and the woods ended up looking pretty great afterwards. This one here is Brian Meadow from Virtual. He sent me these ones. This is in Wild Rose, correct? A little further south, but nonetheless, it's right here in Wisconsin. You can see in the top left and the bottom left picture, that's buckthorn. It's a nasty thing. And then after treatment, which the kind of the aspect of this one was Ryan had $1 on it, and I don't want to scare you, but it ended up being $300 a acre to treat this. But as you can see in the top right picture, that's not buckthorn up there. That's just native shrubbery that's coming in afterwards, some seedlings. So $300 is worth it in this case. It got rid of the problem and opened up to a better future for the family for sure.
I guess just to emphasize, the reason we're all here with these invasive species is because without treatment, when it gets bad enough, it prevents the native species from growing back. That's the big thing we're trying to promote here, that if invasive species are taking over the forest, our native species are not, because the invasives are present. So here's the cost and the reason how we fix it.
And I would say that that cost is gonna be much lower if you deal with it earlier. If you wait until it looks like that, you're gonna have a high cost, you know, versus $300 an acre, but it might be closer to $50 or $100 an acre to catch it very early.
So this is another one. This one is actually, some of you might recognize this site. It's right here in Antigo. This town of Antigo on the southeast side. This is another pine plantation. I know it's kind of hard to tell from the picture, but you see the big tall pine trees there. And in the entire understory, it is just covered with buckthorn. The row in the top left, that shrubbery that you see there, that is buckthorn. The top middle picture, I took that one, and that's just to show you how fit it can be. I was just standing on the side of the road, took a picture directly looking into it, and that's what you're looking at. Like I say, it's hard to work in, hard to work with. And then the other two pictures are just to kind of show you how it moves. You can see the road in the right picture and the road in the bottom picture. It works its way through the forest, and where it stops is where people are mowing lawns and things like that. So just because it's not in your lawn doesn't mean it's not right outside your lawn, or right along your fence line, or right along your forest, your edge of your forest. It can be pretty much anywhere, anywhere there's soil and water. So it can be quite aggressive. So then I'm going to go into a little bit of how you can help. There's that picture again of the trail with garlic mustard on it right there in the middle. Like I said, your equipment, things like that, your boots even. If you're a hunter, you walk through the woods, you get a seed on your boot, then you walk to your stand, you can shake your boots. Now you have garlic mustard at the bottom of your stand. You come back in 2 years, what's at the bottom of your stand? Garlic mustard. You move your stand. Now you just move the garlic mustard from one spot to another spot in the forest that may have never been in the past 2 to 4 years. So cleaning your ATVs, your trucks, even your boots, can help stop the spread. It's an easy thing to do. It's really an easy thing to do. If you got a hose and if you got a brush, or if you can just wipe the boots off, you can stop a lot of the spread of that. The other thing is fill. Be careful where you get that from. It's always good to check it out before. If it's a fresh fill pile, it's hard to tell because the roots may have not grown back. But if you get your fill from somewhere that has these plants growing in it or that have been in it, it can end up on your driveway or wherever you're bringing your fill to. So it's just another thing to watch out for.
One thing we'll say when we talk about with like your ATVs and your trucks and watching off, what we see a lot of times on the trail is there'll be a trail that's muddy, and then there'll be a big water hole. And the ATVs or the trucks will go through the water hole. Then on either side of the water hole, we find the invasive plants growing a lot. Because you go through the water washes the seeds off of your ATV truck, and then that becomes the new infestation, then it just spreads from there. So that's why it's so critical to wash ATVs, UTVs, snowmobiles, trucks, and your boots.
So then I'm going to go into what we do here in Lake County, not only with the DNR, but with the county forest. I kind of broke it down into 2 options. There's people out there that will do it for you. Obviously, you got to pay for it. It can be a little more expensive to do it that way, but if you personally don't want to deal with it, but you still want to take care of it, that's a good option to go. In the back, we had a list of contractors in the area. All those contractors do some sort of site prep to get rid of invasive species, whether it be burning, mowing, herbicide spray, anything like that. So if you're interested in taking care of these things, but not maybe doing it yourself, check out that list that we have in the back. And then obviously the alternative is doing it yourself. There's a lot of different options as far as control. Obviously we've gone through a handful just with Phil and myself. There's a few pictures on there, different kinds of sprayers and mowers. You can get a lot of these things yourself. Obviously, if you're a large landowner or somebody who really wants to fight this and take care of it yourself, it's probably beneficial to buy something like that. However, the DNR, we offer a rental program. The list are on the right, which is kind of hard to read, but you guys can get a bigger one of that. We rent the sprayers and the mowers, things like that, by the day or by the weekend. So you can rent it for a slim price of what you would pay for it and take care of your property, over a course of a weekend or a week or a couple of days, whatever it might be. So it's just another way that we're trying to help stop it. We know that those sprayers can be expensive, those mowers can be expensive, so that mower is $35 a day. So instead of spending $400, $500 for $30, you can get a good portion of it taken care of. And those are the primary things we use. These guys have a UTV that they have that is a boom sprayer that they can drive on the trails. And the key to that is they use that specifically for garlic mustard. Because like we said, if you're using your UTV for recreation, driving all over the county on trails, and you use it to deal with your mustard problem, well now you may have taken your mustard seeds from your private property or from public land onto your own land and can spread it from there. So that's a little bit on control here. We do have a chemical rep here tonight. I don't know a lot about chemicals. I know how to spray them. I'm good at that. But you can use lots of different kinds of chemicals. I mean, get them anywhere, even the internet now. So you can go to retail stores, you can go to chemical suppliers, lawn and garden centers. A lot of your chemicals that you hear about on TV, those kind of things, those work for this kind of stuff. You don't need to go to a fancy place and buy the Magnum package for $200 for 500 gallons or whatever you're going to buy. You can get these things anywhere is the point here. And like I said, Bill, you want to say something about it? Go ahead. This is Bill Page from FS.
I think what you want to do before you start, I'm a landowner, so I got that issue. Been working at it for a little while. If you haven't, I would go out and just take a walk through, see what you got. If you got something that's 20 foot tall, that's got berries on it, that's probably some of the first thing that you go around and try and attack. Well, then that's going to help determine on what chemistry you're going to want to put on. Whether you're going to try and cut it down, like they've been talking about, you're going to stump treat it. There's a basal treatment, you're going to have to cut it down. But the berries are going to be different, so that's the next crop for going to be a long time. And I think you want to develop a plan long term. This isn't going to be 1 or 2 or 3 years that you're going to deal with this. You got the plants, that are big stuff producing berries, you got the smaller stuff. Can you get that down to a level that's manageable to spray? 2 foot, 3 foot. You got something that's coming back from stump culture, that you didn't get enough on it. At least it's in a position where you can put the chemical on, you don't have it in yourself all covered, and you can then determine what products go where and how you want to use them.
So, like I said, if we, at the end when we have our question segment, if you have chemical questions, that's what we want to ask. I mean, these guys are good too, don't get me wrong, but we're all going to tackle that question. So,
We have literature in the back.
yes, we do. We have some chemical stuff in there. So, this is another major part of DNR's help with this. We can help pay for it, in a sense. And I use that, I'm not going to take regular check in the pocket. The DNR has a program that you can apply for. It's called Local Gap. Wisconsin Forest Landowner Grant Program. There's a couple contingencies. You got to have 10 acres of forest land or land that you tend to put in forest, i.e. you're going to be planting a pine plantation, something along those lines. You can't have more than 500. it gets broken down into priority levels. So there's different priority levels for what you are trying to accomplish. For example, invasive species, that's priority level 1. Writing a management plan for your timber, that's level 1. Those kind of things are currently getting funded. Things like riparian management, they're what they consider priority level 2, and they consider them less important. And they're not currently getting funded, but if that's something you're interested in the future, there may be funding available for that. Again, it's something you apply for, you get put on a list. There's a lot of people that want to be a part of this. I think it's a good program to be a part of. So you get put on a list. There's 4 times a year that you get funding. Right there, August, November, February, May, first of the month. And you can get up to 50% back of what you put into it. So if you spent that $300 an acre on your 1 acre that you're trying to treat, now you only have to pay $150. So it can be quite beneficial to your pocketbook as well as your land. And so it'll make it a little easier on you. Do you guys have anything you want to say about it? You don't have to.
Yeah, I think there was a cap about the limit to it, but off the top of my head, I couldn't remember.
I want to say.
As far as dollar amount?
Yeah.
I think it's $10,000.
Yeah.
$10,000.
Also, it is a very, very popular program. A lot of people, it's the whole state using it. It's not just Slinger, anything like that. So, pool of money can dry up early in the year, so if you are interested in it, it's better to get on that waiting list earlier, because otherwise, waiting a year out sometimes. But if you are interested in it, contact the DNR.
The important thing to remember with this program is you apply for the funding, and essentially right now, there's no money, they just used up a good slug of it. You apply for it, and you get put on a waiting list at this point, and then as money becomes available, they'll take the next candidates in line and they'll fund their practices. You have to wait until you get a letter saying that congratulations, you've been funded, before you start the project. If you apply and you start the project before you're awarded funding, it kicks you off the list, you become ineligible. A lot of this funding goes towards plan rating right now, that eats up a lot of it. The one benefit is if you're thinking of a project like this, apply anyway, get on that list. Because a lot of times the funding, if it's unavailable for plans, MFL plans are due June 1st. And a lot of people will turn their plans in rather than wait for the funding. They'll save more in taxes than they will what they'll get back from the plan rate. So when it kicks those people off the list, their potential funding, or you get bumped up the list essentially, then their potential funding gets put back in the pool. And waiting for something like an extra year for invasives might be worth it. So definitely apply if you're interested.
So it says priority level, is that when you write the plan, when you look at the plan, is that then
The priority levels, there's a set of basically priority ones are going to get funded usually all the time. Those are the ones that are basically always on the list. Priority ones, priority twos, and priority ones are always going to get, there's certain activities or certain things, they're always going to get funded over priority twos. And the way it is now with the money not being there, the priority ones are going to get funded. The priority twos, they just sit down for a while.
In regards to invasive, that is priority level 1. So
Therefore, basically,
you're already at, not top of the list, but you're in the top tier of the list. So that's the benefit of signing up. You can get right on there, and as the money comes, like that, as it comes available, you work your way up the list, and when you're at the top, or in the top third of it, or whatever it may be, that's when you come in. All right, so you mentioned MFL. I just want to based on that just a second. Because
yeah, there might be a few people in the room that have gotten letters from me. So I'm the person in Langley County that takes care of all the MFL entries, all the properties, the landowners. So definitely, if you do have questions, I like to handle things kind of on a case-by-case basis, so I don't try to put a blanket prescription or anything. So if you do have questions concerning the bases, or you have questions concerning cash or something like that, my number is one of the ones listed on that contact sheet in the back. You know, you can call, we'll have a conversation, and we'll go from there.
all right, so that.
I just want to mention, we don't have an NRCS person here, but NRCS does have invasive funding as well. little bit more of paperwork up front, but, so federal level is NRCS that can work with invasive. So that is another level that we can get you guys in touch with the district conservationists for our area.
Yeah, there are multiple programs that you can use to get funding, from Forest Service, from DNR, NRCS. So it kind of depends on what you got going on your property. Some things are specific to certain things that might be happening. But obviously, I'm talking about what we have, that's one of the programs that we can offer. So you can do your own research as far as if one of these programs that we're offering isn't, if you're not eligible, there might be something else out there to help you with it. So that's all I have. I'm going to introduce Eric Rantala. He is the Lane County Forestry Administrator. He's going to talk a little bit about invasive Lane County Forestry.
Thanks, Trevor. Again, I'm Eric. Great turnout tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming out. I don't know how many of you use the county forest or private landowners, but the gist of it is, we're neighbors. Our concerns locally with our lands, we have a lot of neighbors, 400 miles of town boundary lines, neighbors in the county. So the actions we're doing may impact you. What you are doing or not doing may impact the county as a whole. So we manage 130,000 acres of land in Lane County, and those revenues go back to offset taxes here in the county, which has historically been over $1 million after all of our expenses. So pretty important resource we have here, and are fortunate to have. Out of that 130,000 acres, about 43,000 is northern hardwoods, and that is really between that and our aspen types, really money makers for the county. The